Hello and welcome to this video on my alternate channel, Anti-War. I shouldn't be wearing this cap because I'm doing this beer again, canned version, salt. But I'm doing it on the alternative channel. I got a 4-pack. I didn't buy it. My friend David gave it to me. 4-pack. He got it so cheap. He got 24 cans for $12. Not out of date. Crazy. These cans are hard to open. They're so sealed and they're tough. You know, American cans, you barely touch it, it breaks open. This Mexican can, you got to really pull it like you think the cap, you think the little tab is going to break off. That's how tough they are. Okay. 1899, year of introduction, Saul, the sun. Then that's the son's name, Saul. Greek gods, the Greek gods. That's why the sun has a face on it, because the Greeks believed it was a god. Saul. And the nighttime god was what? Luna. And if you got on the bad side of Luna, he would make you go crazy. Thus, you would be a lunatic. Being punished by Luna. Okay, but anyway, the sun beer. It's a sunny beer, Cervecería Moctezuma, Original de Mexico. Nice looking can. The bottles used to be really pretty. Remember when they were painted on? You might remember that. Maybe 20 years ago, it would be a quart bottle, usually quarts around here, and it was painted. It was paint. It wasn't a label that was like adhesive. And sometimes the paint would flake off. I'll go put the rest in the fridge. But I have no Mexican beer cap and I have no Heineken cap, so I'll just wear this because I don't hair. Well, hair couldn't fall in my face because I cut my hair with trim my bangs, but still, I just don't want to hang it on my forehead. Okay. 4.5. I did the video for Saul on the main channel. It lasted like 45 minutes, but I didn't discuss the beer too much because people were making all kind of comments about different things, which were good and very positive. And then the video just kept going on and on. And they were saying, "Don't cut it off. We're having a good time hanging out." I said, "Well, I hate for the viewers to have to watch a long video. Of course, they don't have to. They could just turn it off." And they were saying, no, we like it. And I kept getting more views and more comments. More people were watching, more people were commenting. And so they were kind of like saying, why you want to spoil the party and quit? So I just went along with whatever they wanted to talk about, which is beer oriented. And then we were looking at old bottles and cans, and it was very interesting. So people got a kick out of it. So I wanted to make this video and focus on the beer a little bit more. There's not a whole lot to say. I was thinking about doing a video on the main channel about, it wouldn't matter if it was beer or liquor or wine, but it was about ownership, like family ownership of companies and how that can oftentimes lead to trouble. And I was thinking about, I was talking about this on Dawn Busters a little bit about how a lot of these companies failed when a new person took over in the family. And there's so many examples of that, not just in beer and wine and liquor, like hotel businesses and things. And I was thinking maybe I could make a video about that. Just a discussion for like an hour. But I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, but I'm always fascinated by that. It's kind of fun to talk about the history of the products and everything and the business behind it. This beer had a thick white head. It's died away. Now for years, it's clear straw, 4.5% alcohol. I think it's 4.2 in Mexico and 4.2 in England and France. It's not the same. Now in Australia, they get it, but Swillengrog was telling me, he said, the one we get in Australia is made in the Netherlands by Heineken. And he says, no good. They don't get a Mexican brewed one. They just using a recipe. He says no good. seemed like Heineken could do it to perfection, though, but I don't know. This has a lemony flavor, and it's got some corn flour. You know, I think they use, nose is itchy. They use cornstarch and hops. All these Mexican beers use the same kind of hops pretty much, like the Moravian. I mean, those like Hallertau hops, which is from like Bavaria and Czech Republic. Well, Bavaria is here, and the Czech Republic is there. So they're neighbors. They're two neighboring states, even from the days of the Holy Roman Empire. It was Bavaria and Bohemia. It's called Bohemia then. Until 1918, it was called the Kingdom of Bohemia. And they're next door to each other. So those hops, Hallertau, Tettnang, they're called noble hops, from nobility, I guess. And the Mexicans, which means the Germans, wanted those type of hops to mimic the German beers. Grassy hops, mild barley, light body, crisp, clean, refreshing. You get it. The Pilsner style, like Pilsner Urquell type thing, but not as bitter as Pilsner. Not as bitter as Pilsner. Can't get enough of that Sol. He's laughing at me, says Ronnie. He's laughing at me. I like the long reviews, though. See? My friend Paul called me. He used to be on the Hangouts all the time, but his children got so big when they were like a baby in a baby bed, they wouldn't bother him, but they got big to where they want to be banging on the door. Let us in, let us in. What are you doing? And he said they would make it like it wasn't worth it, you know. You know, he was like, can I just have one hour? But no, they say no. So he said if he ever does the Hangouts with us again, he'll do it from an office where he works, because it's just too much trouble at home with the, you know, like a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, you know, it's just like chaos, you know. But anyway, he used to do Hangouts all the time, but he told me why he quit. Some of these other people, they just inexplicably quit, never give an explanation. It kind of bugs me, because I don't do that kind of stuff. I always tell people, like, I always thought that was like politeness. Like, say, look, I can't do the videos anymore. Here's the reason. No, don't just quit. I don't know. I'm going to pick up that Chihuahua beer to show you. I've never had it. Chihuahua, that's the one. That's the one I was talking about. I haven't seen that thing in so long. Light, cornstarch, corn flour, cornmeal, whatever, some kind of corn. Very mild barley. The lemon note, I always noticed the lemon in this from the hops, doesn't have lemon added. I always thought when I first started drinking Sol, like in 1996, did they add lemon to this? It's lemony. It's like you didn't have to add lemon. It tastes lemony. It's so easy going. Those quart bottles were always $1.99 for the longest time. Let's see. Maybe it was the Tecate that was $1.99, and I think Carta Blanca was $1.89, and Sol was $1.89. That was always, like, for years, that was the price. $1.89, $1.89, and then another one was $1.99 for a quart. So I used to buy those, and it's heavy glass. The Mexican glass is heavier. And they always had that little cap. They always had the same bottle design. And Sol was always painted. The label was always painted, and so was Corona. Still is, I guess, in some cases. Rolling Rock used to be a painted label. And, but those beers were always a great price in the quarts. Now I'm seeing Modelo Especial in the quarts. Modelo Especial, but that's $3.29. I said, why would I ever pay $3.29 for a quart of beer? Too high, but it's so popular, and so is Corona Familiar. They could charge that. They get it. They get the money. $3.29, even $3.65, maybe $3.99 in some places that are really outrageous. But Sol was always cheaper. It still is, and it was always good. Now, if you go to who would have Sol in a Rouse's, I guess. Rouse's is the only store I know of, that chain, that has Sol in the quart cans, bottles, quart bottles. It's like $2.39. $2.39. And my friend David and I did a hangout outside during a car show. Like, you could hear the cars going like, vroom, vroom, vroom. We did the hangout with the Sol bottle, and he was like, "Man, this beer's so good, you know. It's always better than American beers." And I think so too. These Mexican beers are so good. Not way, way better, just better. I wouldn't quit, but I can't make all the hangouts, especially during the week. I'd actually like if there were more weekend hangouts. Yeah. Yeah. I do make a lot of hangouts. A lot of them I don't make. A lot of ones I do make, I don't feel like making them because I'm tired, you know, at night. Like, I worked all day. And I'm like, well, I don't want them to be angry with me, you know. They might feel like I'm blowing them off, so I'll do it. But you could tell sometimes in those hangouts, I'm just like, I'm just listening or talking a little bit, but they're fine. I mean, they're fine. Last night was fine because I had most of those beers, Kostritzer and Jingu and the Dixie Black and Voodoo. So when they were talking about those beers, it was interesting to hear what they said about them. But all these other beers that I've never tried, it's very boring to be in a hangout, and I have the only beer that I've ever had. And then I listen to 5 other people that are describing beers I've never tried. I can't relate to them. They're just like, oh, and it has these qualities and that quality, and it's this and that. And usually it's very nice people, but it's so boring. And if you see me, I'm sometimes just staring straight ahead. It's because I'm looking stuff up on the internet. I'd be looking up Sazerac brands. Like, Sazerac has this big portfolio, and I'd be looking up Port Royal rum. Let me see about that. Oh, they have their own website? Oh, okay. And I'm looking at that, and I'm listening to somebody saying, you know, I don't know why this has a buttery aspect, you know, but I can't relate to it. But I don't want to be rude. But if I just sit there and just listen to that, I'll fall asleep. Like, I did that once, like, start falling asleep because I just can't stay interested in it. I fall asleep with stuff I am interested in. I remember that review you did at the car show. Yeah, that was fun. You don't eat nothing. You don't say nothing. You just listen. Right. You don't eat much. You don't talk much. You seem to be in shock because you two good friends just killed somebody for no real good reason. Oh, yeah, that's a fine beer. Dynamite. Well, when I come back, I'm going to bring up this topic, and any of the viewers, who is like 2 people right now, this channel doesn't get a lot of views because nobody knows about it, which may be good. I'm going to talk more about that subject. Now, would I like to have Sol apparel? Of course, I would like to have a Sol cap and a Sol shirt. Yeah, I'd like to have that. Why wouldn't I? It's the best looking label. The old label is the best. The originally. This one's pretty nice. It's a little too heavy on the border. The trim is a little heavy, you know, but that's what they want to do with it. Fine. It looks good. I like it. But I like the old label better. The 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s label. With that just so light and bright. Yellow on white. White on yellow. Thing just dropped. Okay, it was so old-fashioned, you know. This is more modern. It's fine though, but I just like the old one. Orange, yellow, and white. So I wanted to make a video. I was thinking about making a video just talking about like ownership, but I don't know. It could be too hard to pin down. Because I was talking about how And I was thinking about this when I was walking this morning early, like at 6:15. I was thinking about the topic, like how I could talk about it. And I was thinking about how Constellation Brands seems to be going downhill right now because their founder died. His name was Marvin Sands. Okay. And he started a company called, well, I don't know what it was called back then, but they had a wine, Wild Irish Rose. It's like a cheap New York red wine, Wild Irish Rose. You can get it around here. They used to be an official sponsor of the NFL, like no joke. I remember back in the 80s, they would have Wild Irish Rose commercials on TV. Wild Irish Rose. And it was like a guy sitting at one of those TV dinner tables, you know, those TV tables. I have some from 1966. And he was like, had a glass of ice and he was pouring Wild Irish Rose and watching a football game. And it was the screw cap. And he was like, get into it, Wild Irish Rose. And I used to think when I was like 15 years old, I bet that's good. It's probably sweet. You know, when you're young, you want everything to be sugary. It's probably sweet and fruity, which it is. It's kind of nasty, you know. But so his son's name was Richard. When he started the company in 1951, he named the wine after his son Richard. And they called it Richard's Wild Irish Rose. It was and is popular. And then that company kept acquiring other companies, liquor companies like High West Whiskey, beer companies. They controlled distribution of Corona beer in America, even production to an extent in Mexico. One of the guys that hung out with Jesse did a video recently, yesterday or the day before, about, I couldn't follow that video. It didn't make sense to me. Like he was saying, Constellation Brands is out to destroy the Mexican people to make money. I kept watching it. I said, I don't know, this is some kind of socialist rant or something, because he was saying they're bad. And he was talking about how the plant, that the brewery is almost 100% automated. And that's why it was so bad, because it doesn't give jobs. And I was saying, no, it doesn't make it bad. Automation is a very good thing. It's efficient. But my thinking was it could give jobs down the pipeline of other areas. But if the beer's got a few people making it, that doesn't make it evil. Look at Crown Royal whiskey, the #1 selling Canadian whiskey in the world, and one of the #1 selling whiskeys of any type in the whole world. What did they say? They have 100,000. What was I reading? There's 100,000 barrels being aged at any time, something like that. Some incredible number. Like you would never dream that they could have that much production. But it's in an isolated part of Canada, and they have 67 employees. You heard me right. 67 people work at that distillery. And it's one of the largest whiskey operations on the planet. Is that company ripping off Canada because they only have 67 workers? You know? In 1920, 100 years ago, they probably would have had hundreds of workers. But was it as efficient? You know? So I don't know about those rant videos. But he seems kind of laid back, like if I took issue with it, and he wouldn't go flipping out, you know, saying, I'm going to block you on Facebook, or I'm not friends with him on Facebook. You know, that kind of person. I'm going to get you, you know, those kind of people. It's like, I just disagree with your video, because I've had that experience in the past 10 years with some people. They're really strange. You know, they're all buddy, and everything's buddy time with me, you know, and then they'll make some statement and I'll say, well, I don't really agree with that. And let me tell you why. And they go crazy, you know. I mean, if people disagree with me, I don't go crazy. I just say, well, let me tell you what my viewpoint is. Of course, some people, they'll claim I block disagreements, but it's not true. But they'll I've heard him say he blocked me because I just disagreed with him. But they're not mentioning the fact that their disagreement was along the lines of, hey, mother effer, I guess you blame women when they're raped. That's their well thought out disagreement. It's like, no, if you can't talk like a human, you need to get lost. If you want to speak calm, talk to me like a person, use your real name, not a fake internet name, we'll talk. But if you're going to come at me heavy and hard and using a fake name, you need to get lost, what you need to do. And then you can run around crying, and I'll send you a towel in the mail, and you can cry in it and claim I blocked you. That's a lie. It's a mendacious lie. Anyway, going back to the family. I don't think I've ever seen Soul Beer, but I've never really searched for it. I'd try it. Yeah, you'd like it too. I think you'd like it. So family ownership. Well, Marvin Sands died. Family owned. So then his son Richard takes over. Okay. Looked like things were going pretty well. But I don't think things were going so well. What's happened with Constellation Brands in the last 5 years? Man, that company's been shedding brands like a dog shedding hair. They sold, see, that's always a sign something's not right. When these companies start getting rid of brands, they're unloading brands. You know why they're unloading brands? Well, it's 2 reasons. One, it could be underperforming brands that you just want to get rid of. And somebody makes them a good offer, so like, you take it. It's a bad bet, but take it. Like a Sazerac buying Southern Comfort and Tuaca flavored brandy from Brown Forman 5 years ago. Brown Forman said, hey, you want to take it? You claim you're going to make money with it, give us $500 million, you could have it. Now, Sazerac says, yeah, we revitalized Southern Comfort. It's from New Orleans anyway. We're in New Orleans. We care about that brand. You didn't care about it. Okay, whatever. So something like that. But when these companies just start unloading brands, like something's wrong. That means they're trying to look for cash flow. They need money. They're not making it. That's what happened with Seagram's. Seagram's was the biggest distilling company in the world. That's a perfect example. That's a great one to talk about. But Richard Sands died. I'm sorry, Richard Sands owns it now or controls it. But he stepped down about 3 years ago. He was kind of forced out of his leadership position. He's still the president, but he's not the CEO. They sold Black Velvet to Heaven Hill. Last year, they sold almost their entire wine portfolio to Ernest and Julio Gallo. And what do they say? Oh, they're going to concentrate on marijuana business in Canada. And a lot of people are predicting that's going to be a fiasco. They're going to lose so much money. They lost their way. And when these companies start slipping like that, usually there's no way to get them back. What's going to happen to Sazerac when their owner dies? Him and his wife, I mean, they're all in their 80s now, right? Or 70s. I think 80s, though. Who's going to run it? William Goldring is the only owner. Him and his wife own Sazerac, one of the largest liquor companies in the world, distilling companies in the world. What happens when they die? They might have children that's going to inherit it. But that's where the trouble starts. They'll start fighting over, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know if I should make a video about that. People might find it as boring as all get out. But I would make it like a discussion video. Like, look at Anheuser-Busch is another example of family ownership going south. Now, Heineken is family owned too now. So they seem to be doing all right. I don't know what kind of structure they have. I don't know about their internal family operations. Seems to be going well. But look at Anheuser-Busch. The Bush family ran it. They didn't really own the majority of that company. No, they only had, I think I read an article, they had like 14% of the stock. It's like 86% of the stock was owned by other people, not their family. But all the distributors were owned by the family. Like the government said, you can't own a distributorship if you own a beer company. Okay, so then all of a sudden their nephews and cousins all own the distributorships. Like if you look up Eagle Florida Eagle or whatever it's called, Southern Eagle of Florida. It's owned by some guy named Bush, and the one in Louisiana, Bush. They're all owned by some Bush family people. So they just farmed it out, and but the family ran it because they were very, very good at running it. So why would the stockholders care? They're making money left and right. Let them run it. They're like Midas. Everything they touch turns to gold. Nobody cared. It's like Al Davis. You know, that man did not control the Oakland Raiders till 2005. He did not have majority ownership until 2005. He was the owner since what, about 1965. But he had a minority ownership in the Raiders. He was a minority owner, but he had the biggest amount of stock. But what happened with the Bush family, you might remember around 2005, they had those commercials with August Bush III. And he was an older man, but he was kind of nice looking, like, you know, like he looked dignified is what I mean. Wearing a nice suit, nice haircut. He was saying, we take great pride in our Budweiser beer and all that. Next thing you know, he retired. Well, he was like 67, whatever. But he was real concerned because his son took over. And he didn't have too much confidence. August Bush the Fourth. This guy was like Artie Piscano in Casino. You know, he could mess up a cup of coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a guy that he didn't really want his son running the company. I think he was trying to plot behind his back to tell the shareholders, could you make him not take over some kind of way? Because he had flipped a car in 1982, riding around with his girlfriend, and she got killed. He was drinking and driving. 18 years old. His family got him out of trouble. He didn't go to prison. About 10 years ago, they found a woman in his house dead. His live-in girlfriend. Dead on drug overdose. Child wandering around the house. Both of them, him drugged out of his mind. His father knew. He's an alcoholic. He pops pills all day. Bad trouble. Can't run a company. He's only 40-something. But he took over. He got control. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, this family ownership. About 2008, that's when they had the uprising from the investors, the shareholders. They drove that family out of that company. Got so bad, they had a shareholders meeting and he was drunk on stage. He was at the microphone, drunk, high, drunk, talking gibberish, like, you know, rambling on, not making sense. I don't know what year that was, 2006, something. They had to cut the mic, pull him off the stage. After that, that's when the shareholders said, we got to get rid of the Bush family. They're crazy. This guy is crazy. And so he's a train wreck. So they sold the company. They just rose up and they took the company from the Bush family and sold it to InBev. Now, InBev was looking for a hostile take. You know, InBev had wanted to take it over already, but they wouldn't sell it. But they said, buy it, save it. It's dying. You know, that company. So what happened in 2008, 12 years ago, InBev took it over. Now it's Anheuser-Busch InBev. So they have their ruthless mastermind, Carlos Brito. He was only like 40-something when he took over. Carlos Brito says, I have no hobby. I read an interview with him. He said, I have no hobbies. I do nothing for fun. My hobby is running this company. Okay, that's what he said. I don't go fishing. I don't go to ball games. I don't watch TV. I run the company. That's my hobby. I like business. It's kind of like Donald Trump, you know. Of course, Donald Trump likes golf, plays golf, but eccentric like that, you know. Unusual, unlike other people. So Carlos Brito sits down, look at the company. Oh, Anheuser-Busch is going to go bankrupt in a few years. Hemorrhaging money. Sure, biggest beer company in the world. Great. Breweries all around. Totally mismanaged. This is a company owning amusement parks, Busch Gardens, owning snack companies, owning you know, all kind of stuff. All the executives driving around in limousines. All of them got a company car, expensive, car. Everybody, regional manager, district manager, quality control manager, everybody got a company car. Driving here, there on the company's dollar, on their expense account. Every time they get a meal, you know, they're not getting a meal from Rally's or Burger King. They go on to Delmonico. They get expensive catered meals. They go to New Orleans to go do some research on some beer. They eating out at Antoine's. This is like all the time. That's all they were doing. August Bush IV taking his friends to flying them down in one morning to go to Miami Beach and go out in the Atlantic Ocean on a charter boat to go catch fish. And they was flying in, like what is it? They was flying in all kind of expensive rum from Puerto Rico or something, and all this food. Every employee of Anheuser-Busch got 2 cases of beer a week. No. A case a week. That's 4 a month. Everybody in the company. Case of beer of your choice. Of your choice. Carlos Brito said, "Oh no. I know what they're doing. Half the people don't even drink. They're giving it to their family, or much worse than that, they're selling it." He knows. They're taking the beer. They're selling it out the trunk for half price. Every week, their friends show up. What's Budweiser selling for? $20 a case, selling it for 10. He said, "I know what's going on." He said, so Carlos Brito, people talk bad about him. They say he's an evil guy because he said, no, the company was hemorrhaging money. There was no way it was going to stay in business. So he started cutting back. And they did research on all kind of things. Carlos Brito said, why these bottles got to be so heavy? You know, bottles, not cans, but why these bottles got to be so heavy? The Anheuser-Busch people said, we don't know. That's just the way they always been. Oh, get the scientists to look into this. Can the bottles be less heavy and still protect the beer and be a good container? They say, of course. Make the bottles thinner. So now the bottles are thinner. After he took over, the bottles were thinner. Here's another example. So see what I'm talking about, y'all? Would this be a good video on the main channel? I don't know if people want to hear all this. This is how the Bud ice bottles used to be. You know, this cut glass. I mean, it's a molded glass, but you know what I mean? It looks like ice. Carlos Brito takes over as the president. No longer that. Smooth bottles with just the AB embossment. He looks at the rice. We use verdant rice. You know, they say that now. Budweiser uses green rice. Fresh, not cooked. Okay. And it always was whole kernel rice. Whole kernel rice. Carlos Brito, was he from Brazil? He says to the scientists, you know, that work in the lab for Bush. Well, what is the bit of whole kernel rice? They know he understands verdant, green. It needs to be fresh. Okay, fine. Oh, they don't know. They say, well, it's just we always bought that. But what if the rice is cracked? Oh, they say that's half price. Cracked. It's cracked rice. You know, nobody would buy the rice at the store if the kernels were cracked. He said, yeah, but would it affect the production and the flavor of the beer? Scientists say, well, no. He said, why are we paying twice as much for rice when we can buy all the cracked rice? They don't know. He said, okay. For now on, we're buying cracked rice. That was like an uproar in the company. A lot of people quit. We quit, and this man's crazy. He said, I'm not crazy. It doesn't make a difference in the beer. It tastes the same. We're buying stuff for no purpose. Company cars. After he took over, he said, start next year, nobody gets a company car. You want to come to work, drive your own car. They sold all the cars. He said, I don't even have a company car. I drive my own car to work. Carlos Brito, the CEO of Anheuser-Busch InBev. He said, I don't have a company car. I drive my own car to work. Why are these people driving company cars and they got to buy a new one every year? Craziness. No more company cars. You want to eat food? Go buy something to eat. No more catered meals. No more eating at Delmonico. No more eating at Antoine's. No more eating at Trentino's at whatever in San Francisco at Fisherman's Wharf. You want to eat there? Buy it yourself. No more expense account for your meals. Go eat somewhere. Oh, well. You want to get, now they dropped it to only one case of beer a month. Not one a week, one case a month. I was talking to an employee. He said, yeah, they dropped it to once a month. They weren't too happy. He said, well, we're giving beer to every employee in the company. Half the employees don't even drink. You figure out what's happening with the beer. So all these crackdowns, he saved the company. Now they're a very powerful company again, but they're owned by InBev. So a lot of Americans said, they sold out. They sold out. I'm never going to drink their beer again. I was like, don't you understand? They wouldn't be around at all. They're going to wind up like Pabst, Schlitz, who had no control over their expenses. I read about the Stroh's Brewing Company. Same thing. I got a brochure here that Stroh sent me in 1996 from Detroit, Michigan. Go to the brewery now in Detroit, Michigan. You got weeds growing up to the roof. You could probably walk in the place, no guards. It's all shut down. It's a ghost town. Huge brewery. Why is that? Company did not. The Stroh's family could not run it. And I read they were all alcoholics. All the children were drunks. They all went to college. They all flunked out. They were all drunk. They were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for what you call residuals from the company because they were the kids. Stroh's was what? The fourth largest brewing company in America in the 80s and 90s. But could not sustain it. Every year it was dying. But they couldn't see it. And then in 1999, it shut down. It was sold to Pabst. Pabst bought up all their properties and shut everything down. And I was reading that article about they said one day the checks stopped coming. They would get all kind of money every year. And they couldn't believe it. Oh. Well, the family sold out. I'm sure they got a payout. They didn't get that monthly check anymore. Just a lump payout. We have to work? How do you work? I never went to college. Well, I did go to college, but I partied all the time and I failed. Didn't go to class. Stayed drunk. I'm 39 years old now. What do? I have no skills. I have all these payments. I'm in debt. I drink all the time. You see? So that's the whole thing about these family-owned places. You never know what's going to happen. Now, if everybody that takes over is competent, maybe they'll do fine. But look at Howard Johnson's. Ronnie S. said Howard Johnson's, where he lived, was like a hobo hotel. Bad place, drugs, everything. Wasn't like that when I was young. Oh, when we went to Disney World in 1976, Howard Johnson was so big then. They were nice. Too expensive for us, but I mean, it was one of the biggest hotel chains in the world. And it was named after the guy that started the company, Howard Johnson. He started ice cream parlor. They used to be bigger than Baskin Robbins. They didn't have 30. I think they had 28 flavors. That's what I say, 28 flavors, not 32, whatever. He started an ice cream store by the highway in Connecticut, I think it was. Ice cream shop. Then it got bigger and bigger, and then it became a hotel franchise. He started renting out hotels, and then so Howard Johnson in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s created one of the biggest hotel chains in the world, and restaurants all over the United States. Restaurants everywhere. Howard Johnson restaurants. Only one little problem: he owned it all, or at least the rights to it, and he died in 1972, 48 years ago. Well, that's what happens. People get old, they die. Who inherits it? His son. Now, apparently his son didn't have the same drive. didn't have the same competence. Same thing with what happened in 1971, the year before, with Seagram's. The new Bronfman took over. It was owned by the Bronfman family, not the Seagrams. Seagrams sold out in 1926. I think it was 26. Because Joseph Seagram died, and then his family didn't want to run it, so they sold out to the Bronfmans. Now, Bronfmans had this old man that ran it, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, for 40-something years. Knew what he was doing. Became the biggest liquor company in the world. Howard Johnson, one of the biggest hotel chains in the world. Well, you see, Howard Johnson's son took over. I don't know his name. In 10 years, the company was sold out. The beautiful hotels turned into cheaper. Prices dropped. Now, it's a shell owned by Wyndham. Okay, some of the Howard Johnsons are nice today, like you get the Howard Johnson Plaza in some places, but there's no more restaurants. They used to have restaurants. I went to New York City in the early 2000s. There was Howard Johnson's restaurant right there in Times Square. All 24 hours, 365 days a year. I didn't go in, but I said, that's a famous place. Then they announced it was closing in 2005. It was a big story. The last Howard Johnson's. It was a big story. So the son, it took his son 10 years to wreck the company. The Bronfman, what was his name? Edgar Bronfman took over in 1971. He was only like 26 years old. Oh, what a disaster. This guy takes the biggest liquor company in the world and in 29 years destroys it, and it's sold off. Now, this is a company that was important. They created Eagle Rare bourbon. Eagle Rare, 1975. They created Eagle Rare. They created a lot of important liquor brands. But it was the same thing. Their expenses were so huge because they're all eating catered meals, driving around in limousines that the company paid for. Basically, like they're embezzling their own company. You know what I'm saying? They're like stealing from their own company. Same thing with Anheuser-Busch. They're embezzling their own income, right? But what you going to do if the owner's stealing from himself? So I remember Seagram's had amusement parks. I remember reading in the newspaper they had bought a magazine company. Don't worry about the liquor now. Worry about all these other investments. All kind of stuff. All kind of crazy things. But it was failing. It was failing. It was failing. I remember I was reading an article the other day from 1985. They were reorganizing the company. That's always a bad sign. Reorganizing the company. We're getting rid of a lot of our subdivisions like General Wine and Spirits. And they're moving people around, and they're getting rid of a lot of people. And then I saw an article, and 4 years later, well, they're going to sell a whole bunch of brands to Sazerac. Canadian Hunter, Benchmark, Bourbon, all kind of stuff. Then they sold a bunch more to Jim Beam, Kessler, and a bunch of other liquor brands to Jim Beam. And kept selling brands, 89, 90, 90. They kept selling off their brands. Why are you going to sell off your brands? You're the biggest liquor company in the world. You selling all your assets? You know why? Needed income. But they went out of business in the year 2000. Why is that? Well, that's a problem when you got more money going out than coming in, right? Can't pay your debt. Can't service your debt. You dead. You're out. Creditors show up. It's all gone. So that was what the video was going to be about on the main channel. But here I talked about it on this channel. But nobody watches this channel because they don't know about it. But I think it's an interesting story. So Heineken is family owned today. Sazerac's family owned today. Constellation Brands is family owned today. But they're barely making liquor now. Wine or beer. Liquor, wine, or beer. That company is becoming a nothing. Let's see. I don't think Constellation Brands is going to keep Corona beers for too much longer. Crown Imports. Crown Imports is Constellation Brands. I just think they're going to go away. They're going to sell out. Pabst is a fiasco. Ever since the original people, well, since the second owners sold it. The second owners knew what they were doing, but they were forced to sell it by the U.S. government. Thank you, U.S. government. The current owners are terrible, in my opinion. Ernest and Julio Gallo's family owned. Look at their photo. The owners show like 40 people. You can't even fit them in the photo. That's all the descendants. Ernest and Julio Gallo's grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I said, how are they going to keep running this company? It's too big. They got too many people running it. Can they all get along that well? I just think something's going to happen. Now, Diageo, they're the biggest liquor company today. But it's a publicly traded company. It's a corporation. It has a board of directors. It has shareholders. That's more sustainable, I think, than a private partnership. Anyway, enough ranting. I wasn't even ranting. I'm just talking about the history. Doesn't make any difference to me. I just drink the stuff. I don't own it. Saul, family-owned beer. Yeah, Heineken. Now, if you're lucky, you could be a family like the Leinenkugels, who sold out to Miller, meaning Philip Morris cigarette company, in 1988, 87, 88. They let them run the business, but they don't own it. So let Miller worry about it. Let Philip Morris worry about it. Let Molson Coors worry about it. As long as they're making profit, they'll let them run it. So the Leinenkugel family runs it. The day-to-day operations, you understand. The Nelthrop family down there in United States Virgin Islands, they don't own it. They run it. Cruze and Rum, but they sold out to Beam Suntory. But if you look at their website, the Nelthrop family still runs the daily operations. I'm sure Beam Suntory doesn't care as long as they're making money, but they could run them out. Now, there might be a purchase agreement where they have to let the family keep running it for a certain number of years. But Cruzan's popular. Sell out, get your cash money, let them have the headache. The owner of Dogfish Head did. Sam Calagione sold out Dogfish Head to Boston Beer Company. Let him deal with it during this craft beer downfall. Let him deal with it. Founders sold out. Anchor Brewing sold out. Ballast Point sold out. St. Archer sold out. Terrapin sold out. New Belgium sold out. Red Hook sold out. Widmer Brothers sold out. Full Sail sold out. You're going to sell. If they show you that kind of money, cash money, and you can just take the money and run, you're going to sell it and get out. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Y'all take care now.